Hello, welcome to another video from Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering, and today we will be repairing some plaster over a timber archway. So this is the damage. There was a crack running all the way along the line and you can see the plaster there. It's popped off the bottom section, and there is also a blown section of plaster on the wall next to it. You can see a crack running along there. Either side is actually quite solid, and above that timber arch is also solid. So the first thing I do, I work out which area is blown and which is solid, and I've cut a perimeter around the blown section. And I am now using a multi-tool to carefully cut the perimeter. You can see this is very dusty work, so make sure you sheet up very well, like we always do. You can see we've thoroughly protected the carpets and put sheets over the doors. Now, this has been replastered at some point in the past, more recently over the original plaster, which is very, very old. I would say 50, 60 plus years easily, the backing plaster, and you can see how dusty and crumbly it is. It's very important with repairs like this to cut a perimeter, or you may accidentally create some sort of domino effect where you just keep popping more and more plaster off the wall. So I've cleared it all away and tidied it up. You can see a line along the top. At some point they've added a little wooden arch, which is fine, they've just not done it very well. So what we're going to do now is use a very strong glue, a Fix-All Turbo, and we're going to stick it in the gap there and all around the edges. So this is going to reduce any future movement, and it will also, where I'm doing it the original plaster, it's going to ensure that none of the edges of where I've cut away it's going to make sure they're re-glued and re-strengthened back to the original brick. And I will do along the patch and the perimeter of the patch as well. You could argue it's not strictly necessary. This is an extra step I've personally introduced just to increase or reduce, should I say, reduce the chances of any possible movement and cracking in the future. And then I'm just going to use my finger to press it in and really squidge it in there. And that will just really help it strengthen. Now, because it's wood, there's a special primer, Blue Grit, called Blue Grit, which you can apply directly over wood, and it allows you to plaster over wood. You do need to make sure that primer is thoroughly dry before you plaster over it. And with a small patch like this, it's sometimes worth using a hairdryer to dry the Blue Grit, to dry the primer a little bit quicker, because it can take quite a while to dry. So once the primer's on, we've given that about a good half an hour, and it is ready for the bonding coat, the undercoat plaster. And this will fill out the repair, and we'll scrape that all off nice and flush with the original wall. You see I'm sure many of you may know this is not a two-man job. This is quite a small area, but there were other bits and pieces we were doing as well. But for the sake of the video, I'm just focusing on this small patch repair for now. So that's got the undercoat plaster. Once that's on, I like to use scrim fibre tape to go over all of the cracks, all of the joins, just to add an extra reinforcement. So that is more reinforcement mesh over any possible areas that may crack. Again, with plaster, you can't really guarantee against cracking because it can happen, but what you can do is really drastically minimize the chances, and that's what I'm doing here. So I'm reducing them as much as possible. I'm also scrimming around the bonding, where the bonding meets the original. And now we're mixing up multi-finish. Again, these are very small areas, so I've used an accelerating agent in both the undercoat plaster and the top coat plaster. Now this has allowed me to get the undercoat plaster on, and then half an hour later get the, it was probably more like an hour actually if I'm being honest, get the top coat plaster on. And then because this is a small area, although I was doing another area as well, the accelerant allowed me to get this whole patch on the repair and the top coat all done start to finish within 4 hours, which is significantly quicker than you would be had I not used the accelerants. Typically this would have taken a standard plasterer a day just from a waiting point of view. They'd be waiting for the undercoat to dry, then waiting for the top coat to dry. It's a little bit difficult to see on the camera, but because it's timber, we're having to cheat the sort of curve in. So where there is the arch there, we've very skillfully feathered in very nicely and kept that nice. Thanks for watching.